Hello all, welcome back to the Unplayable Podcast. My name is Josh Schonafinger. We are now under a week until the World Test Championship final. Australia taking on South Africa at Lord's. Jack Paynter, you're over there in London, mate. Thanks for joining the show once again. How are things over there in the UK?
Hello, Josh. Yes, the Unplayable Podcast has touched down in the UK, as has the Aussie squad. So all going well so far. Just getting over the jet lag. The sunrise at 4:30 in the morning isn't helping, but we crack on, and just under a week out to the World Test Championship final.
Now, I've seen some pictures that have come through from the training facilities there at Beckham. Can you just describe to us, where is it? What is it? Because from what I've seen, it looks like a pretty rural sort of country village cricket ground.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one because the Aussies trained there ahead of the last World Test Championship final in the Ashes. It's in, how to describe it? It's in the south of London, not quite as far out as, there's the big M5 motorway that runs around the whole of London, sort of still within that. So still within the metropolitan area, I think. Not too crash hot on my London geography, but it's still an hour away from Lord's and the team hotel. But
right.
it's actually Kent's second ground. So they've got their first ground, obviously, in Canterbury, which is a bit further into the southeast. But this is their second ground in Beckham, called the Kent County Ground as well, believe it or not. But yeah, it's a bit close to London. I think they play a lot of second 11 cricket there. Maybe the odd county game here and there. But yeah, great setup. It's got sort of houses, trees around it. Plenty of, as you mentioned, a bit rural. It's kind of like you are out in the outer suburbs of Melbourne or Sydney or any other Australian major city where you've got just a sort of big park ground. But yeah, the setup's great. They got, I think, an indoor complex there as well. Nice looking pavilion, as you would have seen in the photos. Oh, wow. And quite good ground to actually watch from, although the press setup they've resurrected is a bit of a marquee, and you can't see through the clear tarp because it's stained with water and stuff from over the years. But it's a nice sort of country sort of feel to it, and yeah, nice place to watch some cricket, I guess.
So what took place at the first training session for the Aussies? Were there a couple of nets going? Was it all fielding practice? Sort of talk us through who was there and what happened.
Not too much fielding, to be honest, but it was a pretty lengthy and full-on hit-out, I think, because there's some weather coming in today, and today, Thursday morning in the UK, there's some weather coming in, so training might get cancelled. So today was actually supposed to be the main session, but I think that transformed into yesterday on Wednesday. So you had a bit of an abridged centre wicket going where the bowlers were off the full run, bowling through to a wicketkeeper. Alex Carey was taking a few for the first half of the session. And then they had one of the Kent County wicketkeepers come in and catch a few balls as well. So, the bowlers are all off the full run. The pitch was lively, had some good pace and carry to it, and most of the Australian batters faced the bowlers. So, Sam Konstas, Usman Khawaja, Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith, Alex Carey as well, Bo Webster, Cameron Green, of course. They faced Mitch Starc and Scott Boland and Pat Cummins, Brendan Doggett. Marnus had a trundle as well in the centre wickets, and as did Bo Webster with both some offies and some meds. So it was a pretty full-on and competitive hit-out as well. Mitch Starc was getting the ball carrying through, above head height to Alex Carey, so he was really getting it through and taking no prisoners either. There's a couple of bounces that were thrown in there to a couple of the batters. So yeah, really solid hit-out for their first training session since landing in the UK, really.
Any indication in who might be in line for that opening spot, like who was facing new balls, who was batting with Usman, anything like that?
As our listeners might know, the Duke's ball stayed pretty new throughout, but was interesting to see Khawaja and Konstas batting together in the same net. So they started off facing the spinners. They had didn't quite figure out his surname, but his first name was Jack, and he was a local off spinner. Matt Kuhneman was there as well, and Nathan Lyon. So they opened up facing them, and then they went over to the centre wicket where the bowlers were bowling. So I thought that was mildly interesting. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but Marnus and Steve Smith batted together as they usually do, and then everyone sort of cycled through after that. So yeah, that was probably the most interesting bit, that those two walked out of the change rooms together and batted together first up.
Yeah, okay, nice little nugget. I also read in your piece that not only was Daniel Vittori wanging the ball from he's a tall man, so he's a left arm wanger. They also had a tall left arm net bowler in. Is there something to that?
They did potentially. The Proteas have obviously got towering left armer Marco Jansen, who's been in hot form. So without, obviously, they've got Mitchell Starc as well. Without reading too much into it, but Marco Jansen is a different type of bowler to Mitchell Starc, a bit taller, gets a bit more bounce. So potentially they're preparing for that threat. This net bowler Ali Zamir, he's from the Kent sort of trials, hasn't actually got a club. So when I was talking to him, he was trying to word me up and get his name out there, see if any takers around northwest London want to pick him up for the season. So, but he looked like he could get through. Like, his action was nice, and he was the only net bowler. They had a few others there, but he was the only one who bowled in the centre wicket session to the Aussie batters.
Okay, well, we've got a few UK listeners. So Ali Zamir is the name. If you're looking for a tall left armer, he's your man. Now, Jack, you also had a sit down with the coach, Andrew McDonald. How is he feeling ahead of a second consecutive World Test Championship final?
He was in very good spirits, I think, because his birthday is today, Thursday. He turns 44, I think it is. So, yeah, so he was up and about. He talked about how highly they rate this competition. It's only in its infancy, only in its third tournament, but they're really excited to be the first team to try and defend that title and win multiple World Test Championships. So, yeah, he was excited to sort of get the squad back together for their first full session, barring a few admissions. Travis Head wasn't there as an optional session, so Travis Head sat out, and then the two IPL players, Josh Hazlewood and Josh Inglis, and he spoke about that, those players who are due to be returning into the Aussie squad last night. So hopefully, if there's training on Thursday or Friday, we'll see them around. And so let's hear what he had to say about those players coming back in. Josh Hazlewood obviously came back, sat out a bit longer than after the resumption, but are you pleased that he was able to go back and get those games of competitive sort of intensity under his belt ahead of this contest?
Yeah, we always prefer our players playing, and you mentioned the word intensity there. I think there's nothing like a match for the intensity that you need. So, albeit it's only 4 overs, it is intensity. And for him, where he was at with his shoulder, I think it was a nice little box to tick, if you want to call it that, in terms of his resumption, getting through. He's pulled up well, and now it's really just making sure that we get him, right for the opportunity for selection for the final.
Cameron Green, how good to have him back in the Aussie squad?
Yeah, it's great to see him around. He's had a couple of months in county cricket, and that was his first resumption with the ball as well. So he's got he's had a grueling task in terms of his rehab, and full credit to him getting back to where he's at the moment. And now the next journey for him is clearly cementing himself in the side as a batter, but then getting his bowling up and running. And you would have seen that was his first resumption today with ball in hand. So that's exciting. Anytime you see a player coming off a long-term injury and then resuming something they really enjoy doing, it's nice. And yeah, there's a long road ahead for him with the ball, but we're confident come the summer that our expectation is that he'll be that full capacity all-rounder that we'd love to have in the team.
Yeah, so Cameron Green there, obviously the returning Aussie all-rounder. He's been in hot form in the county championship with 3 centuries in 5 matches. And he, of course, is an important part of how this side is balanced, but he's not bowling at the minute. And just whether or not Australia want that all-rounder, that's another thing that you pitched to Andrew McDonald, and just how crucial an extra bowler can be at Lords.
How much of the sort of history do you look into that all-rounder position that you were talking about on the radio interview last week? Like the Test final going 5 days last time, the Lord's Test going 5 days last time, like how crucial those all-rounder overs will be?
Yeah, Lord's presents 2 extremes, really. You see some really short, fast games there, depending on the conditions, and you see some games that are elongated and go the distance. So whichever way we go, and we've got an incredible luxury in Nathan Lyon, who can play attackingly and defensively with the ball. We've got an attack that complements each other whichever way you go. And then, are we going to be exposed by the overs that our bowlers have to bowl? And that's a decision that we'll make as we get closer. And it's hard to hypothesise what it's going to look like. There's weather starting to come around the next few days. It's been dry at the start of the summer, so we haven't played a lot of cricket Lords in June. So, we're going to have to make some some educated guesses on what that game potentially will look like, and that'll generally inform our selection.
So Andrew McDonald there on Lords, and it is interesting, Josh, just how good Australia's record is at Lords. It's better than England's. They've played 40 tests there, won 18 of those across 140 years of test cricket. It is a happy hunting ground for Australia, but they haven't played this early at Lords in June since 1921. So you have to go back more than a century to find a test at Lords featuring Australia, which also coincidentally began on June 11, which is the start date for the World Test Championship final against South Africa. Whether that lends itself to one of those shorter, faster games that Andrew McDonald was talking about there, potentially. Just, I guess they'll have to weigh up, the pitch and how, if there's rain around, as we spoke about earlier, how that's going to lend itself to the duration of the game. But, in saying that, the last Ashes test, you were here for that as well. That started, a little bit later in June, but that went the 5 days, and that surface sort of flattened out across the duration of the 5 days, didn't it?
Yeah, that was a real flat one by the end of it. Is it the feeling a bit like when you're up in Queensland, for example, and you're at the Gabba, let's say it's early October, you don't want to be batting there early in the season because you know it's going to be green. Is it the same in England? Early in the season, early June, it's going to be green? Is that the general feeling?
Potentially. It's hard to know because we haven't been to Lords yet and haven't seen the pitch in the flesh yet. But if you look at the county rounds across sort of April and May, it has been quite dry. So the pitches, while they may have been tinged green and looked green at the start, there's not much moisture in them underneath. And so it has sort of lended itself to, some big high scoring draws. And that's when sort of you get the maybe 600 scores. And there was a few big double centuries in the county competition. So potentially that may have an impact on the pitch as well, but potentially this weather coming in over the next few days, it's raining right now as we speak. It's sort of 6 a.m. in the morning here, and it's raining. It's supposed to rain for all of the morning, and then there's some rain around as we lead up into and during the game. So potentially that reserve day could come into it as well, if the pitch does flatten out as it could do. But yeah, it's really hard to know. Short answer is really hard to know until we get to the Lords and see the pitch, which Australia have their first session there on Sunday. And then from there on in for the next 4 days will be how that pitch sort of evolves leading into the first ball.
That's another one worth reiterating to our listeners, because I only learnt it today, but there is a 6th reserve day scheduled, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, but they can only activate the 6th day if there's rain and if they lose a significant portion of the game. So the match is 5 days. The reserve day's there for a bit of inclement weather or other circumstances that would cause a delay in the game. But if there's not enough rain, not enough sort of substantial amount of time lost in the game, then if it's a draw after 5 days, they'll share the World Test Championship title.
Well, yeah, imagine a shared final. That would leave a bit of a sour taste in everyone's mouth, I'm sure. But these two sides both play attacking cricket, so there will be a winner, I've got no doubt. Now, Jack, I liked your final question to Andrew McDonald yesterday. Just recapping the year, or the 2 years that's been for his side.
Do you have a favourite moment of the WTC? Favourite win? Favourite?
Oh, there's so many. We had a little get together this morning and a little team meeting. We showed some of the edits from across a 2-year journey, and there's been some incredible highlights. Steve Smith's 10,000th run, Paddy Cummins at Edgbaston, New Zealand, that partnership with Paddy and Alex Carey. We've had some sticky moments, and we've had some significant stress points across the journey. And I think one of the proud moments as a coach was the way that we responded from the Perth loss. That easily could have went in a different direction, and the ability for the group to reconnect, to see the journey out, and that series secured the opportunity that it presents here. So that's probably a moment. It wasn't a hugely successful one, but I think the way that the group was able to show some resolve from that defeat was an incredibly proud moment. Yeah,
he's kind of hit every key moment there, hasn't he, Josh? Have you yourself got a favourite moment from the last 2-year cycle?
Great question. Obviously, the Border Gavaskar Trophy was fantastic. Great to see Australia get the win there. But it's hard to go past Lord's experience. As you mentioned, I was there for the first time 2 years ago, and to see them win, at the home of cricket. And it was a pretty wild and woolly 5th day, so that was a lot of fun.
I was just thinking that was my one as well, Josh, because that day 5 was actually because I came over a bit later to that tour, and that day 5 was my first day of the actual tour, and just walked into an absolute cauldron of English sort of, jousting at the Australian team. It was just something to behold. I actually, during that day, had to go out and just stand in the crowd and just sort of soak it all in and see what it was like. It was an experience like no other, a bit like a football crowd, to be honest. Imagine what an EPL team would be like in their following over here. So, yeah, that was right up the top for me as well.
And I feel like a lot of the big moments in that match can sort of be forgotten. Obviously, there was the Nathan Lyon injury and when he hobbled down to bat. But also, at the start of the match, Johnny Besto picked up a spectator and threw him out of the ground. Like, a lot of people forget that craziness. Like, what the hell?
I must have missed that one. In my journey over on the flight, I have to go back and watch that one. Sounds fascinating.
Now, Jack, we asked our listeners for some questions for you. So I'm just going to rattle through them because we got a lot of questions for you on the cricket.com.au social channels. So just give me a short, sharp answer, and that should cover off everything that we haven't quite managed to so far. You ready for that?
Yep. A bit intrigued, a bit scared about what the listeners might ask, but let's go.
Okay, so the Vulcan wants to know, will there be an intra-squad game for Australia?
No, there's not. So they haven't had one since 2019 Ashes series, and they're subsidising that with these centre wicket hitouts in a controlled environment, is what Andrew McDonald called it. So the intensity's still quite high, as we mentioned, and yeah, that's what they're doing this time.
Faisal Bashir wants to know, is Greeny doing bowling drills?
Well, that's a good question, Faisal, because he actually started bowling for the first time at Wednesday's session. So that was his first bowl back off a couple of paces into a net and then at a stump. And we sort of watched him do some remedial work with Andrew McDonald and Dan Vittori as well. So trending in the right direction for Cameron Green, and hopefully we'll see him back at the bowler's crease by the Ashes this summer.
Amarnath M wants to know, what are the weather conditions in London?
Chilly, not very different to what I came from in Melbourne. So, 13 to 15 degrees, a little bit of cloud around, bit of rain today, as we've talked about, but hopefully it clears up as we head towards the match.
Now, you already touched on this one a little bit, but Jonah Lincoln wants to know, was Webster bowling pace or spin?
Both, and that's the beauty about Bo Webster. That's why we love him here on the Unplayable Podcast. He can do both, and he was bowling both yesterday. Spent most of his time bowling medium pace, which I think it'll lend himself to more if he gets the nod at Lords. But then, they've got the Caribbean Tour coming after that, where his off spin will come in very handy.
Straight Edged for Life wants to know, has Josh Hazlewood arrived yet after his IPL heroics?
Fingers crossed we haven't seen him yet, but he was due to land last night at 6 p.m, and hopefully we'll see him either today or tomorrow after taking RCB to the title for the first time.
Yeah, well done to RCB and all their fans. Now, Nathan Fernandez asks, how would you describe Marnus's form and rhythm in the nets? Come on, Jack, give us your update.
Jeez, they're heavy-hitting questions, these ones. He had a good hit out yesterday. Actually broke a bat, so I don't know whether that's a good sign or not, but split the handle when he was facing some throwdowns from one of the Australian coaches. All the Australian batters looked solid enough, but it was a testing session. Like, they faced a pretty tough examination from the Aussie quicks who had the ball sort of nipping around off the seam, swinging in the air even after it bounced. Both the local wicketkeeper and Alex Carey had a tough job making sure they gloved them all cleanly. But in saying that, I don't know if this is one of the questions that might be coming up, but Sam Konstas, he did look the sharpest out of all the Aussie batters yesterday. A couple of nice back foot drives and a couple of pull shots. So good signs for those Sam Konstas fans out there.
And there are a lot of them, actually. It's great to see. Final question, Jack Anstey wants to know, who's in elite shape?
Well, Sam Konstas will be top of the list. Mitch Starc looked in pretty elite shape as well. He was getting the ball, carrying through nicely. Nathan Lyon, he was up and about as well, running around joking. So I think he's excited to get back to Lords, and because obviously last time there he had the the calf injury and missed the rest of that test. So I think he's pumped to be back at Lords and another chance to defend what he calls his World Cup, having not played white ball cricket for a long time.
Great work, Jack. Okay, we're going to be doing daily updates on every day throughout this World Test Championship final. So if you want to wake up and get the latest on the happenings there at Lords, join Jack and I on the Unplayable Podcast. Make sure you've subscribed so it goes straight into your feed, whether that be on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. So really looking forward to bringing you that.
And kudos to you too, Josh, with those. You'll be waking up at the early hours back on the Gold Coast there to bring our listeners those episodes. So, looking forward to chatting and recapping every day of the test.
Oh, it'll be good fun. It'll be good fun. Now, should we just rattle through a bit of the other cricket news, Jack, before we sign off here?
Yep, let's go. What have you got for us?
Well, Glenn Maxwell, we should touch on him. He's announced his ODI retirement during the week. Obviously, he's left a fantastic legacy with 2 World Cup wins to his name, a double century in a World Cup match against Afghanistan. Who could forget that match? And of the batters with 2,000 or more ODI runs, he has the highest strike rate, currently 126.7. So a fantastic career, Maxi, in the format, and it's probably going to go down as, well, he'll probably go down as one of Australia's greatest in that format, I would imagine.
Yeah, quite a career, hasn't it? He's kind of been one of the first players really to sort of, I guess, in the T20 age, really sort of revolutionise ODI batting and T20 batting just with his strike rate, as you mentioned, like getting it up to 125 is still unheard of, remarkably, really, in ODI cricket, given the proliferation of T20 cricket. But once he was in full flight, he was a joy to watch, wasn't he? Would that be your sort of favourite recollection of watching him in the flesh, that 200, Josh?
Yeah, certainly right up there. I mean, the fact that he couldn't really even move, I mean, we don't ever really see that happen, but because there were no other batters to speak of for Australia to come in, he had to stay out there. He had to just stand and deliver, basically, and it was a thrill to watch. Felt a little bit sorry for Afghanistan because they really did deserve to win that match, but Australia's class and Glenn Maxwell's just pure striking ability came through, and he created a bit of history that night.
Yeah, I unfortunately left the tour by that stage and didn't get to see that one in the flesh. But watching it back, that was incredible. And as he talked about in after his retirement, one of those sort of where were you moments, like where were you when you watched Glenn Maxwell hit 201 not out to bring Australia back from the brink? And he talked about having one of those himself. He talked about Steve Waugh's century on the final ball of the day. On the final ball of the Ashes Test at the SCG. So, now Maxwell's got one of those to himself.
Now, Australia A have announced their squad for their little series against Sri Lanka A. That'll be held in Darwin in July. 3 50-over matches and 2 4-day matches. So we get a bit of an insight into who the selectors may be looking at and just keeping a closer eye on. And there are some rather interesting names there. I'll just rattle through them. Jack, there's a couple of test players there, including Nathan McSweeney, Curtis Patterson, Matt Renshaw. We've also got Sam Elliott, Matt Gilkes, Bryce Jackson, Campbell Callaway, Jack Nisbet, Mitch Perry, young gun Oliver Peake, Josh Philippi, Jason Sanger, fresh off his Shield heroics, Liam Scott, Billy Stanlake, who we mentioned on the last episode of the podcast. So well done, Billy, for his elevation. And then Henry Thornton and the Shield's leading run scorer from last year, Jake Weatherald. So some fresh names in the Australian A setup, but also some names that we probably expect to see there.
Yeah, and the other thing that stood out to me is a lot of in-form players as well. All those guys that got runs at the back end of the Shield season, none more so than Jake Weatherald. What a season he had. That was fantastic to watch some of those innings and some of that ball striking as well. So, it looks like that move to Tassie is really paying off for him. He had some struggles early on where he couldn't get his way into the team, but, he's carved out a spot for himself back at the top of the order and is hitting the ball beautifully.
Yeah, it's great to see. And obviously he grew up in Darwin as well, so a bit of a homecoming for him. Crazy that he could only manage one Shield game in his first season down in Tassie, but he certainly turned that around with his run scoring spree last year. So good luck to all those guys in the Aussie A setup in July. Jack, now the IPL final, That was also during the week. A few Aussies were taking place. Ricky Ponting's Punjab, they fell just short by 6 runs as the Royal Challengers Bengaluru took the title. Josh Hazlewood, he won his second IPL crown after a previous win with Chennai Super Kings. Tim David, unfortunately, he played most of the season with RCB, but he was out with a hamstring injury. And on the losing side, Josh Inglis made 39 off 23, and Marcus Stoinis made 6 off 2. They just couldn't get them. They just couldn't get the Kings over the line there, could they, Jack?
No, and I think you were getting stuck into me on the last episode because I wasn't a big IPL fan, but I can tell you the time zone is much better in the UK. So I did catch this game, and you could just see it from the outset that Virat Kohli, he had that look in his eye to sort of get RCB to the title. And I didn't know this until this year, but it's hard to believe they've gone 18 seasons and this is their first title. So there's a clip floating around on the IPL socials of Kohli sort of tearing up in the final over when it was a foregone conclusion that RCB were going to win, and he couldn't hold it back anymore. So congratulations to RCB and Virat Kohli, a much deserved title, I'd say.
I did like that from Josh Hazlewood as well. He bowled the final over. Now he actually had pretty good figures. He finished with 1 for 54, but once the game had got to a point where RCB couldn't lose unless he bowled a no ball or a wide. So the equation was down to 29 off 4. It seemed like he just bowled half volleys. Shashank Singh went 6-6-4-4 to finish, but it didn't matter because RCB won the title. But he sort of hurt his own figures there, Hazlewood.
Yeah, not one for the scorebook, that one. But as you said, the game was foregone conclusion there. And his first wicket actually was quite a good catch from Phil Salt running. I don't know if you saw that one, but running back with the full flight towards the boundary rope and a bit Glenn Maxwell-esque in a way. He had to chug it to himself and get back on the other side of the boundary rope. So he obviously took 3 wickets in the first qualifier final as well. So terrific season by Josh Hazlewood in the IPL. Another one actually, like he's been in top form the last few years in T20 cricket. So congrats to him, and he'll be coming into the straight into the Aussie camp. With one title, hoping to add another in a couple of days' time.
Yeah, imagine that, 2 titles in a fortnight. That would be a pretty good way to cap off your financial year, wouldn't it, Jack? I know that we don't often delve into financial years, but end of June, we get to start fresh. So why don't we do that this time around? On that note, we better wrap it up, I think. A reminder that, the Unplayable Podcast is going to have daily updates of the World Test Championship finals starting from, it'll be the morning of June 12. Join Jack and myself live from Lords. Well, Jack live from Lords, me live from home. But we look forward to bringing you that on the Unplayable Podcast.
Looking forward to it, Josh. It's good to chat once again. And in the meantime, you can catch up with all the news and latest from over here in London on cricket.com.au and the CA Live app.